Welcome to the Passive Income Podcast. I am your host, Dividend Dave. Please be sure to join the Passive Income Posse by clicking that subscribe button below. Joining me on this episode 71, I believe, already into the 70s, we have Dividend Dad. You can find him on Twitter at Dividend Dad1. Go ahead and give yourself an
Hey, what's
introduction.
going on, guys? My name's Dividend Dad. For this, Dave, you can call me that or Dylan. Doesn't really matter. We're both DDs here, so I do get confused on Twitter when they're like, "Oh, like DD, good job," and I was like, "Damn, it's me and Dave." Like in this conversation, I really don't know which one they're saying good job to. But my name's Dividend Dad. I'm here just trying to show my journey and to show my progress. I want to create generational wealth for me and my family. So I started my journey in September, and I hit 15,000 followers last week. It's mind blowing to even see that. Like just one person follow me, let alone like 1,500 people. I'm like, damn, like this is pretty big.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild when you go over that first 1,000 and you're just like, wow, I remember when I was excited when I got 100 followers and now I'm into the thousands, right?
I'm just very blessed that I just even had like there's one person that wants to follow my journey, and let alone there's hundreds, and I'm now getting in the thousands of people. So I'm just blown away by all that.
Right. Yeah, and the Dividend Twitter community is amazing, like very supportive of each other. And like you say, the shout outs for the good jobs and somebody posts, oh, I made a dividend of $1 and everybody's like, great. $1 is better than zero,
Well,
right?
yeah, it's
So
amazing. It's also incredible how much I see people encouraging each other. Like I'm a huge sports fan, so like I'm a Chicago Cubs fan because I'm from Chicago. I was born with 106 years without a World Series before I got one. Sports and like
yeah,
other aspects of life are very sad and depressing, and but like this little dividend community is so encouraging that we just want to encourage everyone to just get better and do better. And like, hey, you got $1, like good job, like reinvest it and grow a snowball. And then we teach what a snowball is, and we teach people to get better and to learn about
yeah.
stocks and learn about dividends. Like it's a great community of people that we have going on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I feel your pain. Obviously, I'm Canadian, so I'm a hockey fan. My number one team is the Vancouver Canucks. They've never won a Stanley
Hey, but
Cup.
those leaves though,
Toronto
those
Maple
leaves are
Leafs.
doing pretty good right now.
Well, and I was just gonna say the Leafs are kind of my second team,
Edible.
who finally have won a playoff series for the first time in 19 years, but they haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967 when there was only 6 teams in the league. So I think we're due for a championship at some point as well, similar to your Chicago Cubs story.
Oh, I'm a huge sports fan. And me being from Chicago, I'm a Blackhawks fan. So we had our little championship window happening, and then the teams has just been going away. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, they had some great years there with a couple of great players, obviously, and yeah,
they
so
had Johnny, Tays, Hossa. They had everyone, man. It was a really good series. As long as you're not a St. Louis Blues fan, we're good.
nice. Well, let's get into talking about some dividends, some companies, some different sectors. Uh, I guess sort of the breakdown of a little bit what your portfolio may
Yeah,
look
of
like,
course.
the companies that you really focus on. Is there any particular sector that you focus on to start, or any company that you're really trying to stack the shares
Not
in?
really. I say that, but I'm really kind of heavy in tech for right now. Apple and Microsoft are really big in my portfolio, but I know that I can't like live off those dividends. The growth is very nice, but I'm trying to make dividends that I can live off of. And I know that
Right.
Apple and Microsoft, I can have $1 million, but the dividends is going to be like only like $100 per. It feels like
Yeah,
'cause
something.
there's
Yeah, the yield is pretty
fairly
low on
low, but
those.
they're good companies, so that it's not only about the dividends, but it's about the growth as well. So
Right.
tech like that, Apple and Microsoft are fantastic stocks to get into. I also have Google and Amazon. I think I just read something this morning that someone put out on Twitter. Then again, do your own research. Don't count on me. I'm not a financial expert. I can't give financial advice.
Exactly.
But it was like Apple, Google, Amazon, uh, Microsoft, and Nvidia give out like 24% of the S&P 500, and I'm like, wow, like I have 4 of those 5 companies. The only company I don't have is Nvidia, but it's just crazy to see how much tech and technology has control in that sector.
Well, yeah, and obviously technology encompasses our entire lives now, right?
We're talking on one right now. I got my mic right here. I got my
Yeah.
computer right here.
Well, exactly. There's no way we didn't have the technology to do this even, you know, 15, 20 years ago, and now it's commonplace. It's, in the workforce, people do Teams meetings and Zoom calls and everything like that. And obviously with Apple, you have your iPhones, iPads, MacBooks, and AirPods, and the list goes on and on there with the amount of market share Apple has in the technology sector. So, yeah, I definitely see the play in the growth side of the tech stocks, but as you mentioned, the yields are still quite low, but I that also leaves room for growth, right? That dividend growth,
That's how I feel
and
like
who knows over time.
I buying Apple and Microsoft not for the dividends, and I don't think anyone should for the dividends, but you're buying it for the growth that you're going to see. I bought Microsoft and Apple, one of my first two, and they're consistently up. Microsoft just had one heck of a week. Apple's earnings, I believe, is next week, so I just can't wait to see what this growth is going to come from because we're just growing. I don't think Apple's going anywhere anytime soon. So
Yeah, no, definitely not, definitely not. Yeah, and same with Microsoft. Neither one of those companies are going away anytime soon, and I'm sure neither is Google or Amazon or Nvidia. I think those were the 5 companies you
yeah.
mentioned, and obviously they're all giants, and they're around for the long haul, in my opinion.
Yeah, technology is gonna take over all of us, and then AI is just starting to come up. AI in the last 3-4 months is just starting to become huge. I think this year they started talking about Chat GPT, and like no
Yep.
one's ever heard of it, but now it's like this AI race is starting to come up like right before our eyes. Like soon enough, I know Microsoft and Google are competing for AI, and there's a couple other companies that are doing AI. So I'm just curious to see where this is going to go because AI, we had like kind of a phone race, and we had like who can make the best iPhone, then it's like the best tablet, best computer, but this AI race is starting to come up. So I'm not too
Yeah.
familiar with it. I do dive into it a little bit there and here just because I'm curious, but I can't talk anything about that. I'm not an expert about that.
No, same. I've been watching it a little bit as well, and you're right. 6 months ago, nobody had heard of Chat
No.
GPT, and now it's kind of a common. You know, you see it every day. Somebody's tweeting about it, or you're reading about it online, or you hear about it on the radio. And then, like you mentioned, beyond Chat GPT, there's also the other AIs that are going to be competing with it. And in the future, we're going to be somehow we're probably going to be able to invest in these different AIs. And I guess you can already by investing in Microsoft and whatever other companies have these AI um, technologies so far. But similar to what you said, I'm no expert on it either. I'm not I'm not the one to talk about it at all,
It's just
really.
really curious to see because I do listen to a couple podcasts. I do listen to your podcast. It was actually kind of funny. I know you had this entrepreneur like teenager. I think she makes like 100 grand or something. I forgot her real name. Um,
Nitty, 18 years old and not even done high school yet,
Fantastic.
making 100K.
Fantastic. So you had her on last week, and then you were talking to this blonde on Twitter with the like swimsuit thing, and then all of a sudden, like she's like, "Oh yeah, like I'll come on your podcast." I'm like, "Great!" So we got this young 18-year-old good doer person, and then we got this blonde bombshell on, and then all of a sudden I'm
Leah the
like, "Oh man,
Trader.
I'm definitely probably gonna be the skip video here." No, but it's just what were we talking about? AI.
Yeah, technology,
So
AI.
I feel like AI, like you can make like a Twitter AI and it can like gather all the groups and all the everyone's that everyone has. And then you can make, this AI just send off tweets and send off followers. I know people are doing it on TikTok right now. There's like this small TikTok trend of like AIs, and all it does is like it sends out a video like every 6 hours or something like that. And it has like thousands of likes. And I'm like, Jesus, like all you're doing is
Right.
programming and it's coming out with like its own videos and stuff like that. That's just mind blowing to me.
Yeah, yeah, I can't agree more. Like, mind blowing, mind boggling, however you want to put it. And we'll see where the future takes us. And the future is going to be coming real fast, right? Then it's going to be like the next 3, 6, months in a year, where are we going to be, 6 months in a year from now with all these different AI technologies?
Oh yeah, that's just the AI race is just outstanding. I know that there's some people like against it, like Elon, and he does have a right because like if they start becoming self-aware and they start, going that route. But it is a plus and a minus because I know he's trying to develop Neuralink too. So that's a whole nother topic.
Right. Yeah. 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 Fair enough. Fair enough. So heavy in the tech sector, and I definitely see why. I guess another sector that you're into.
I'm big into ETFs. VTI and VU are really good. I do have some QQQ, but my largest two earnings would probably have to be just overall over my whole portfolio would be SCHD
HD.
and SPHD. That's a monthly
Right.
dividend. It's involves in low there's low risk, like low risk, but like monthly dividends, and then SCIH takes care of the SP 500 dividends, top dividend companies in that top 100 companies in the SP
Right.
500. Sorry.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, and yeah, ETFs are a great way to go, for a lot of reasons. They're a great way for beginning investors, because with an ETF, you can literally just sort of look at the top 10, 15, 25 companies held in that basket, in that, ETF basket, and you can go, "Oh, wow." Like, for example, SEHD, I'm not sure of all of them, but I'm quite sure it's like, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Home Depot, and just solid companies, and you don't have to say, "Okay, well, do I invest in Coke or do I invest in McDonald's or Home Depot or this one or that one?" You can just invest into this ETF that gives you a little piece of all of them,
Yeah, with a
right?
very low expense fee to it instead of doing it all yourself. But I like to use an analogy that I found out on Twitter, and this is why this community is so good. Like your portfolio is your ETF. It is like Dividend Dave's ETF. Like this is what
Yeah,
you're investing in, and 100% of it is what you have in. So like, let's say you have 5% in Apple, 5% in Microsoft. Like that is your portfolio. That is your ETF.
yeah, that's a great way to put it, great way to look at it. Your own individual portfolio is your own ETF, and so within that portfolio, you have some ETFs, right? Or most of us
Yeah.
do, and yeah, so you can have all of these individual stocks, like I mentioned, the Cokes, the McDonald's, the Home Depots, etc. Um, but then within that, you can have an ETF that also holds those. So it can get to a little bit of, I don't want to say over diversification, but multiplication, I guess. Like you could be holding a single company, but then also have exposure to that company in an ETF,
Yeah.
which isn't bad. Like I definitely have that in my portfolio. So
I believe we all do. It's always safe to diversify, and that's what ETFs are supposed to do and meant to do. So it's just nice to see that, and nice to be like the expense ratio is little, but it's just nice to have though.
right, right. Yeah, I know that in the US, SEHD is one of the most popular one, and VOO are two of the most popular ETFs. Which I obviously know from Twitter, and having SEHD Stan on as a guest. If you didn't see that episode,
I didn't.
definitely,
I didn't. Oh, I missed them.
yeah, it's a great episode. It's back. I'm not sure what episode number
He's
it is back.
close. He's at like 590 shares now. Like I follow him too because he's trying to get to 1,000. So I follow him, and he's like,
No, I
"Oh,
think
I'm
he's
at
up
like
into the
one share
800
this
shares
week," and I'm
now.
like, "Oh, damn! Like that's pretty cool, man."
Yeah, no, he had a great quote. We actually made a clip about the quote he had on when he was a guest on the Passive Income podcast. He was talking about SCHD, and he was like, "Just buy one. Just try it. You'll like it." And then he's like, "Oh, I sound like a drug dealer."
But that's just a good example. Like that's only what he invests in, and that's not a bad investment strategy. Of course, like you try to diversify more, like and go into like Apple and Microsoft. But like, I've actually thought about it too. Like, what if I took like all this, my whole dividend income, my whole portfolio, and I just put it in this one stock. Like, the growth is in the last 10 years comparable to VU and VTI. The dividends are twice as good. Like, why am I doing this? But like, I do have a large portion of it, but I don't believe that I should put everything into it. But I see his point and I see his point of view, and I don't disagree with it. Like, it's a good strategy. He's not wrong.
Right. And that's another great point is, there's hundreds of different ways to invest and or thousands of different ways to invest,
Well,
right?
thousands.
And sure, there's definitely some wrong ways, but there's tons of different right ways to do it as well,
I've
right?
learned so much on dividend investments since I started my channel. I started my Twitter in just September last year, and now it's May of this year. So I've only been on for 8 months, and I've learned so much and
Yeah.
invested in so many different stocks because like I've been on it. I'm pretty sure that's one of them. Jeppy's one of them too. I don't have a lot
Yep.
in Jeppy. I only have like 3 or 4% of my portfolio, but I use it for the dividends. But I wouldn't have found these if I didn't have this source of community that we're all in right now, and that's why it's
Right.
so powerful and encouraging to see this and have people in the same space and same limelight because like we are a little nerdy about it, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it, but to have a community to support your decisions no matter what, that's fine. And if you do have a question, like I know this one guy on Twitter sold like five stocks of Apple for like these not so good stocks. And like in my mind, like I'm not better than him, but like I'm just curious, like what's your thought process behind this? Like why are you selling these Apple stocks to buy like Comcast stocks or something like that? Like I don't get it, but maybe you see something that I don't and you can explain it to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Great points. And definitely a couple things there that um first, yeah, you do see tons on Twitter, right? Tons of different companies of people that are investing in literally hundreds of different companies, and you think, oh, I should look into this. I should look into this. And then at the end of the day, though, you're like, oh, I can't buy everything. So you do have to definitely do your own due diligence and do your own research and decide what you want to invest in. But I agree with you. All the knowledge that is being shared in the community is phenomenal.
I think at first, for me, when I started investing, you think that you can beat the market. You think you're the smartest one, but like you try to find these little like stocks that just come up, and you're like, oh wow, this is going to be amazing, and then you invest in it, and you find out that they don't do good. You said something in the very beginning: don't reinvent the wheel. I'm not trying to
Right.
reinvent the wheel. If 90% of people are saying like, "Hey, this is a good stock to invest in," like I'm smart, but I don't believe I'm like super genius. I belong in the
Yeah.
government in a secret project or something. I can't read numbers. I can't look at a spreadsheet like that. I do look at spreadsheets, but I believe that there's certain companies that come in like, oh, this is the next Netflix stock, this is the next Amazon stock, and like you see all these ads pop up, and you're like, I've already bought in this once by myself, and I did my research, and I'm not going to buy this again.
Yeah, right. I've been there too, where you kind of fall for that. It's like, oh, the next big thing. But then you look back to what you were also saying, like 90% or not even 99%. If 99% of people on on in the Twitter community say SCHD is a good
Yeah.
buy, well, I'm going with 99% of people probably can't be wrong, right?
um sometimes going with like not mass thinking, you're not trying to copy them exactly to their plan, like SCH Stan, like he has a good thing, but like you're not going to use your whole portfolio to do it. But he does have a good point though, and like maybe there's like this guy's trying to do the same thing I am, but he's investing all of it into this one ETF. Like, well, I'm just going to look into this ETF, and like you look into it, you do your homework, you see other people are talking about it, and you're like, wow, like maybe this is something I actually got to look into.
Right. Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. So, I so off the top, your first two big ones in your portfolio, tech and then ETFs, and let's just go down the list. Sort of, do you know what's your next biggest sector
I
after
do
that?
have real estate. O's a big one. I just sold off a couple recently that were monthly ones that were doing good. That I bought pre-pandemic. I started investing in 2020, right when everything dropped. I was a paramedic. during that time, so I was still getting income coming in because
Right.
I was working through the whole pandemic. When like the 2 weeks were shut down, we were like the only ones on the road that were still like, going to calls and stuff. So I was investing and I was like, wow, this is a good time to invest in the market. So I learned about it. I watched videos on YouTube. Don't learn from one source. Don't learn from just me. Don't learn just from one person. Like learn from multiple sources because that's how you make the best possible source is learning from all these sources. You can't just follow one pin and it's like just following one stock. Like, if it bombs, like, you're shit out of luck. You're out of
Yeah,
luck.
it's okay. No worries. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Like, gather your information from multiple sources. Obviously YouTube is a great source of information. Google, Investopedia, uh, tons of great sources of information that are all literally now, like we were talking about, technology is just at your fingertips these days,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Whereas, you know, even 20 years ago, it wasn't as easy as it is now. 30 years ago, it was definitely more difficult. So, all this information is right there, readily available. You can do your own research. You can, if you are interested in any single company, you can literally look up a lot of information about that company through the sources we mentioned: YouTube, Google, Investopedia, etc. And yeah, so you gather all of that information, and you can make a very knowledgeable decision based on what you learn.
It's just mind blowing to me that these companies like giants like Microsoft, Coca-Cola, Apple, Amazon, well, except for Amazon, like you can hold and buy some of these companies that that they're not going anywhere anytime soon. You
Right.
know, they're here to stick around for a long time. That you can buy a share and then they pay you to hold their stock. To this day, I am still mind blown on how that happens.
Yeah, I know. I've said that one before too. I've tweeted it. It's like, so let me get this straight. I'm going to invest in your company. You're going to pay me a dividend. Then I'm going to use that dividend to buy more shares, and you're going to pay me more money. It's like the opposite of a vicious circle, right? It's like the glorious circle, right?
It's a great circle, like, and it's so mind blowing that to see that this has always been around, and I wasn't taught this as a child, or I wasn't taught like I was taught as a child because my parents weren't investors, but I was taught to save, 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 like just save your money, save,
Yeah.
put it away. But then as I got older, like a couple years ago, it's 2023 and 2020, like 3 years ago, it's not about saving. Rich people invest. You want to invest your money, low risk, like Apple, Microsoft, like Coca-Cola, like these are all low risk companies, in my opinion, that I could put my
Yeah.
money in that I know that they're not going to do anything. They're not going to go anywhere. Like McDonald's, like, people still go to McDonald's. There's a McDonald's straight down from my house. Like every time I drive by it, there's a line. I go down 2 blocks this way, there's a McDonald's. I go about a mile that way, there's a McDonald's on the same road in the same city. Like it's outstanding. It's crazy how these companies, they're not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Like, Coca-Cola's been around for over 100 years. McDonald's must be getting close to 100 years. And yeah, same here. You drive by a McDonald's any time of day, 24/7, and there's a lineup at the drive-through. So, there's
McDonald's
they're doing something
McDonald's
right.
was actually started in the town next to the town I lived in like the 40s or 50s. McDonald's is actually from Illinois. And then
Oh, interesting.
Coca-Cola, Coke and McDonald's have a special deal. I'm not sure if you've ever had like a Coke from McDonald's, but like the Coke is better at McDonald's for a reason.
Right. Yeah, I don't know the reasoning there
So
either.
Coca-Cola and McDonald's, if you want to get a Coke from McDonald's, you can actually try it. Uh, Coca-Cola comes in a aluminum tin box and it's transported in there. And for some reason, it does some of the chemicals. I don't know. I'm not a biochemist, and I don't plan to be anytime soon. But it does something to the chemicals where it tastes better. I don't know what it is, but like McDonald's trademarked that through Coke, so Coke can't deliver that anywhere else but to McDonald's, and it's just like a aluminum, just
Yeah.
something that they they deliver to them. But it's just crazy to see because, in my opinion, McDonald's Coke is so much better than any other Coke, and that's a little
Yeah,
way
yeah,
to
yeah.
see it.
Oh, interesting, interesting. We got a little, sidetracked there. It's all good, it's all good. Um, so sorry, number 1 was tax, number 2 were ETFs, and then you sorry, I can't
I had some
number
it's
3
like real
was
estate and consumer goods. I'm like everyone else. There's a couple other people, I guess, that said that, but O is a really good real estate. They're diversified in pretty much everything to commercial to residential to, Walmart's, Arby's, McDonald's, Walgreens, stuff like this. So I really love O. Big time O. I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. And they're still holding strong in their portfolio with their earnings as well.
yeah, O is definitely, Realty Income, ticker symbol O, is definitely one of the most popular REITs among Americans, and even I know some of my Canadian guests, have held Realty Income as well. So, and again, that goes back to well, 99% of people can't be wrong, right?
You're not wrong there, and it just goes to show that that's how I discovered O too. Like most of these companies in my portfolio has changed in the last 8 months because it would go around like the mid month because that's when O pays out that hey like everyone's saying like oh they're getting paid they're getting paid like okay what's this company like it's obviously monthly. So I think I bought most of my O shares in November because like in September and October I'm like wow like what's this company that like everyone's raving about.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I definitely get that for sure, right? You see all these tweets of people going, "I'm getting a whatever it is, $5, 10, 15, 20, 100 or more," and you're
100,
just
oh
like,
man. I don't think I'll live to see be 100 shares of O. I mean it's a dream but
"Yeah, well, hey, brick by brick, just, and watch that snowball grow," right? As we
I'm a
say.
huge believer in that. I'm a huge believer in, you can't build an empire overnight or in a day, You gotta do brick
Yeah.
by brick, no foundation, just, you don't build a house overnight, You gotta build the foundation, and that's what you're doing in your portfolio so early. And in my mind, these dividends are just gonna blow away from like 10 years from now. And I see people that tell me that and tell me this advice on Twitter, be like, hey, like you're blown away from 4 years of investing and snowballing, just wait for 10 years. And I'm like, "Oh, man," like,
Yeah, 15, 20
"Oh,
years.
you're making my heart pound
Yeah,
right
you
now."
see the tweets of some of those people that are like, "Oh, I made 5 grand or I made 8 grand this month," and you're just like, "Oh, that's amazing, good for you," but they've also been doing it for 15 and
I'm
20,
not
20 plus
I'm
years.
not discouraged by that.
No, I'm
I'm not
not. It's the
discouraged
exact opposite, it's
because
motivational.
it seems like some people they're showing off, but I don't believe that they're showing off. They're like, oh, like he's saying he's making like 1,000 a month now, like blah blah blah. And but I see that as motivation. Like, wow, this guy's worked. Before I even found this out, that this guy, like back in the 2000s, was already doing this, and it's just
Yeah.
kind of encouraging to see that, like, hey, that could possibly be my future, and you shouldn't feel ashamed of the proud work that you're doing.
Yeah, do you follow, Dividend John on Twitter?
Dividend,
So he's a Canadian,
I
and,
believe
he's
so.
been
If
on the
not,
podcast a couple
he's on
times.
my news feed all the time.
So, he's actually asked me, he said, "I hope my tweets don't come off sounding like I'm bragging." And because he's one of the ones that, yeah, has been investing since, the mid-2000s, and his dividend income is he's pushing 70,000, for an annual income.
Hey,
And he's actually asked me, "I hope my tweets don't come off as bragging," and I've said, "No, not at all, the exact opposite. They're very motivational, and they come off as, 'I'm an ordinary guy who did this, and so that means you can do it too,' right?" And I've literally said that to him.
I know a couple months ago, just towards the beginning of the year, I know Nick said something like that, and Nick was like, I think it was like Smart Worth One or something is his handle on
Yeah,
Twitter, and he was telling me like, like, hey, like I hope I don't sound like this, or like someone can like someone from the non community came at him, and it was just weird to see. I told him I like sent him a message like, hey, like don't be like mad or sad of your worth, like you started this like I think he's like on 8 to 10 years. I'm like this is where you've come from, this is the hard work you put, like don't let anyone like discourage you.
Yeah, exactly. No, Nick has been a guest on the Passive Income podcast as well. That was a great conversation. So definitely look that one up if you haven't seen
No,
it
I
yet.
have, I have seen Nick's conversation. It was pretty good.
Nice. Nice. So you also mentioned consumer staples there. We were talking about Coke and McDonald's, and here's something I don't know if this is a thing in the US, but in Canada, the majority of Walmarts have McDonald's inside
Oh,
them.
really? I never knew that.
Yeah, so I don't is that a thing in the US? Do any Walmarts have McDonald's
For
or
us, it's more like coffee. So, like, I know a lot of Targets. I know you don't have Targets up there, but a lot of our Targets, it's kind of like a fancier Walmart per se. They do have a lot of Starbucks.
Starbucks? Yeah, so similar idea of the two companies within the same uh, building or infrastructure.
I know
But just
a
kind
lot of our Walmarts down here, they do have food places, like, instead of McDonald's, they do have Subways, and they do have, like, eye
okay.
care, they do have banking, they just had tax season because tax season was just in America, so I know they come off with a lit some things there and here, but I haven't seen any with a McDonald's, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it just made me think when you were talking about, the special formula for Coca-Cola in McDonald's, and then I got thinking of, okay, that Coca-Cola is in McDonald's that's in Walmart.
I think it's still they still have that aluminum thing that they transported in, so it gets that special taste, and I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
and I might even go, this afternoon to McDonald's and just taste it because, it's just so different when I buy a Coke from the store, which I never do anymore, or when I buy it from McDonald's, just it tastes totally different.
Yeah, so, okay, let's keep, digging into that consumer staples, consumer discretionary. You have anything well, you mentioned that was, sort of tied for number 3 in your portfolio?
I had McDonald's, Coke, and PG are my top ones. Can't think of any more. But then Pepsi is a little too high for me to just throw money into right now. But then I look at my ETFs and I feel like I have more than enough shares of like Pepsi just from those ETFs, and that's why like I always think back to like ETFs. Like, hey, like I have over 100 shares of SCDH, and I'm just like, wow, like and Pepsi is like 2% of that. So I was like, technically, I have like two shares, but like if you want to do that math
Yeah.
and divvy it up, however, but that's in my mind. I was like, I don't own any Pepsi. I want Pepsi. I want to diversify more into consumers, but I don't have any actual shares of it.
Right. No, I really like the, consumer staples, sector as well, for a variety of reasons. Well, the number one reason is I feel it's very recession proof. Your stomach tells you every single day to put food into it, so you have to eat, which means grocery stores are going to still be selling groceries, uh, every day, every week, every month, no matter if the market is up, down, sideways, bull, bear, recession,
You
whatever.
always gotta buy to
I
stay hungry. You gotta wash your
Yeah, yeah.
clothes. You gotta, get something to drink.
Yeah, exactly, and so you also mentioned Procter& and Gamble, and that's another great one, right? You just walk through your house and turn the a bottle around on so many things in your bathroom or laundry room or other, parts of your house, and it's like, "Oh, Procter& and Gamble. Oh, Procter& and Gamble makes this." Like, so many things you don't even realize that they make until you look at the logo on the back of the
Yeah, it's
package.
just crazy to see how much, you use these everyday products, and it doesn't say PG on there, but of course, when you turn around the back, it says PG. But that
Yeah.
these companies own so much of, especially PG, they own so much, like, brushing your teeth, doing your laundry, cleaning supplies like sponges, mops. You go to the store and, you even go in your house, you go to your sink, you go in your laundry room, and then all of a sudden you see all these things. It's just amazing to see all these products. That's actually this
Yeah,
one
exactly.
company, and they just buy them out.
And when you're grocery shopping, you're not turning the label around to well, maybe we are as investors. If you own Procter& and Gamble, maybe you are, but the majority of people in the grocery store are not turning labels around to look, at the packaging to say, "Oh, this comes from Procter& and Gamble. Oh, this comes from Unilever. Oh, I invest in Procter& and Gamble, so I'm gonna buy this one." Some of us might do that. The majority of people probably not. They're just looking at
Sometimes,
a Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I do it sometimes. Um, Sometimes I just feel like a Coke, but like, I think this year I didn't buy a Coke. So when I got my dividend from Coke, I got like $12 from Coke. quarter one, and I was like, wow, like Coke's actually paying me for once, and I'm not paying them for it. Oh man. I don't know, it's just like little stuff
Yeah,
like that there and here. Like I know, $12 isn't a lot, but over time, just keep
it
on
builds over
investing,
time.
investing, the dividends just keep going up. Like I'm just curious to see where this is gonna go, man.
Yeah. You've probably heard me say, "Turn that cash register around."
Hmm.
So and that's exactly it, right? It's like, "Oh, all my life I've been paying to buy Cokes and Coca-Cola products, but all of a sudden, they've paid me. I've just turned that cash register around."
Oh, it's just amazing and incredible to see, and it's just I was never, known to this. And, if COVID never happened, I'm not sure if I ever would have been in the situation of investing, because
Yeah,
I went the opposite. Like I didn't have my money in the market at all, and then COVID hit, and they're like, "Oh, these stocks are the lowest they're ever going to be. Like, turn it around. Like, dump your money. Like, get out." And then, for me, I that's when I started investing. So
yeah. As horrible as the whole COVID pandemic was, it was a bit of a blessing in disguise for a lot of people, kinda like yourself, who got into investing because of the circumstance, right?
oh yeah,
So,
the stocks were at a discount clearance price, and that's when I like to,
yeah,
buy stocks. If Apple or Microsoft has a bad earnings, like I know they're not going anywhere anytime soon. They're just like lost an AI race for quarter one or something like that, or like they had some scandal going on with something or a recall with something. So it's going to be down for a time, and for me, that's a discounted price. Like I know this
yeah,
company's not going to go anywhere anytime soon, so I'm just going to buy it at a discount. I'm not going to put my eggs all in one basket, but I'm going to buy it at a discount.
yeah, dollar cost average down, right? I love dollar cost averaging down. You
What's
also
up? Oh,
sorry,
you're good.
you also mentioned, Pepsi and not owning Pepsi directly, but owning it indirectly through your SCHD. Um, Pepsi's a great company as well, obviously, and, they have the huge snack portion. Like, I believe they're now making more in sales in the snacks than they are in beverages. So, yeah, very interesting there, and I definitely see your strategy of like, okay, well, I have X amount of shares of SCHD, so, 2% is Pepsi. That's so I do have some exposure to that company as well. Do you think you would, dive into Pepsi
Oh
directly,
yeah,
though?
100%. I'm just waiting until I get the money and my income. I'm just waiting
Right.
until I get some more money because, like, I don't know. I just want to buy. I was gonna buy a share about 2 months ago, but that's when they already had their dividends, and I'm like, well, I can wait like another 2 months. So I'm looking at this month or June, early June, before they do their ex dividend date. That I'm looking to buy some actually.
Right. I've actually been thinking about ex-dividend, dates recently and thinking, like, instead of buying, like, the day before when the price is high, because quite often the day after a dividend date, people sell
Yeah, oh yeah.
off because they're I'm like, I'm in it for the long haul, so it might be a smarter strategy to start buying the day after the dex ex-dividend as opposed to the day
Because you
before,
know it's gonna be cheaper that day after. There's a lot of
in theory. In theory, it will be, like, say, a buck or 2 cheaper,
oh,
right?
yeah, and that's a buck or 2 cheaper. That's, point something of a share that you got more that you can snowball into something.
Yeah.
I do that. I know that, PG and Coke, is I see in the the staples that people buy that it is cheaper, that a lot of people sell off the stock once that ex-dividend hits for some reason, and I don't know why that is, but I don't really see that in stock or real estate as much as I do in staples, that people consume, so
Yeah, interesting. Moving on to another sector, it sounds like we've kind of covered your top 3 or 4 sectors, so I'm just gonna kinda ask you about some, others. I'm really curious on your thoughts of the American banking, system, I guess, and some of the failures recently of the regional banks, such as Silicon Valley Bank, and I believe there was another one, First
First
something, First
American
Horizon.
or First Republic, I believe it was. Um, I know that Chase is one of my oldest ones, but I wish I invested in Bank of America. I don't. I know Warren Buffett does. I'm not Warren Buffett, but I don't have. I mean, obviously, but I don't have any. Bank of America stock. I believe in Chase. I believe it's undervalued a lot. I believe it's still undervalued a lot. I think the target price is in like the 150s right now. Don't quote me on this, but selling it like I just checked this morning, it was like 138, $138. Um, I The banking system is difficult. I'm not a crypto channel, but I do believe somehow that crypto is will be the future. I don't know how. Don't tell me how. I have
Yeah.
little to zero crypto, so but I
Yeah, yeah.
feel like everything's digital now. You get paid, you get a paycheck. It's digital. Use your credit card. That's digital. Like no one carries around hard cash. And with COVID, it escalated that too, where crypto was going up because everyone you couldn't handle money. Where at least where I was, you couldn't handle money to someone because people didn't take money. And now when you go to the stadiums, you'll actually like this. Now that when you go to the stadium, so when I go to the Chicago Blackhawks, when I go to Chicago Cubs, they don't accept cash anymore, the vendors. Vendors do not accept cash anymore. It's all credit card. So it's just crazy to see that like, hey, like a digital age is coming, but like how and where fast is it coming that like the dollar is still held by gold per se. But
Yeah.
it's just I believe that I don't know the answer. I've listened to people, but I'm going to sound like an idiot if I say something. But I do believe that, banking and investing and doing ways like this. I know when you go like to buy a CD or when you go on your savings, that these banks are giving you like 1 to 2%. I know I just saw something with Apple. I haven't looked into it, but I think it's like something like you can get like a savings account with Apple and they pay you like 4%. And I was like, wow, like I can't believe 4%. Like Apple, it's not even a
Yeah.
bank and it's getting in this banking and it's interest. And like people are looking into that. And that's how they started investing and doing stuff like that.
Yeah, interesting. So, kind of my take there is you look at sort of the bigger American banks as the better bets. You didn't mention J.P. Morgan, but banks like J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo is up there. Um, Basically, your safer bets compared to the smaller regional banks that have obviously had the troubles over the last few months.
Yeah, I mean, I currently own Huntington Bank, which is on this stock market, but I don't own any shares. But that's where I do, most of my banking. But I do have Chase accounts too. I do have Wells Fargo accounts. I don't have any Bank of America accounts, but it's just crazy to see the banking with these small banks, promising all these things, and then just all the people taking out their money, just going bankrupt. It's just a little mind blowing to me,
Yeah,
but.
yeah. Well, you know, a- as a Canadian, and Canadians just love watching the U.S. It's sort of our and, it's our entertainment. American politics is very much entertainment for Canadians. Not that I wanna get into politics at all, but, yeah, and obviously, the Canadian banking system is 100% different basically because we have the Big 5, or you would call them the Big 6, including National Bank, and the rules are just set up much more differently, than in the US. There's very few, regional banks. There are some, but just not nearly as many as there are in the US. So, um, yeah, the Canadian banks, as you've probably seen on Twitter, are, very solid investments as well. Uh,
What's their yield around? Is it like 2-3%, or is it a little bit more?
I'd have to look. It's been ranging higher. Like, actually, I think Bank of Nova Scotia is around 6%.
Gee,
I think the others are probably in that 4.5 to 5% range.
jeez.
Um, but here's the real kicker is, the oldest one, I believe it's Bank of Montreal, has been paying a dividend since 1829. So they're coming up on a 200-year anniversary of consistently paying dividends.
How do you do that? Like, go by horseback and deliver money to your house? Like, "Oh, thanks, like, I had no idea." Like, railroad bonds? Sure, why
That's
not?
actually probably what they did 200 years ago, right?
Jeez, that
And then, the next one I believe is Bank of Nova Scotia at 1833. But they've all been paying the big 5, have all been paying dividends consistently for over 150 years, which
that's
is
phenomenal. I love that.
yeah, yeah.
I just
So
wonder, like, hey, like, do you want to reinvest these, or do you care if I get them by horseback? Oh, there's gonna be a fee, by the way. Oh, sorry, the carrier died. Like, Oh, wow, that's just amazing to think about, man, and just how much that we've come, but these dividends have always been around, but, like, my parents never knew about it, and, like, I've been trying to teach them about, some stuff there and here, but, they just don't wanna listen, and I get it, like, you're stuck in your ways, like, you're older, like,
Yeah,
you're never too old to invest, but the younger you do it, the better you do it, but it's just crazy to see how long this has actually been around and, like, how school didn't teach me this or, like, you had to teach this on your own, and that's incredible to think about that, like, this way of making money has been known for over 200 years, but for some reason, like, we're just finding out about it now.
yeah. No, and you know, the most amazing part of those numbers of like 1829 and 1833 is that Canada didn't even become a country until 1867. So somehow these banks were I don't know. I don't know how that they must have been incorporated by Britain back then before Canada became a country.
Chris.
I guess that's a history lesson I'd have to look into, or someone can comment below.
No, but that's just like mind blowing because I thought dividends in my mind like only came about like the 70s or 80s. I know it was way before then, like, like, hey, thanks for investing in us. Here's a little chunk change. But it's just incredible to see that it's been going on for almost 200 years. And I had no idea because, like, where have the history of dividends even started? Like, we all invest, but like, what's the history about it?
Yeah. Well, special episode of the Passive Income Podcast coming up when I do some more
Oh, let's
research,
go.
I guess, right?
Let's all do our research. Let's have a panel. Let's do it, baby.
Yeah, the history of dividends panel, that actually would be a good show. People would, appreciate that, I'm
Oh,
sure.
hey, just have a bunch of people just having a good old time. Like, hey, I'm totally down for it. I know you got your own guests and old people that you mess with, but that's just phenomenal to even see or think about because like I'm like nerdy and geeky about like history and stuff. And to
Yeah.
see that with, sports teams, but like then when I go to dividends, like, damn, this bank's been paying for over 200 years. But now like how would that even get to you? Like do you like go to the bank to claim it? Do they come by like horseback? Does it get reinvested in the company? Like i I'm just mind blown right now. I'm probably gonna
Yeah.
do some investigating right now after this. I'm not gonna lie.
Nice. Interesting. Um, Moving to another sector that we haven't talked about yet, and I kinda lump the 2 sectors together being because I call them energy, right? Oil and gas, sort of the one side of the sector, and utilities. Um, Obviously, they're different sectors, but, very similar in what they provide. So anything in either of those, oil and gas or utilities?
When COVID hit, my very first dividend stock was ExxonMobil, and I didn't know about it. I just saw gas was down. This is a good time to buy the stock, so I bought it.
Right,
And then I found out when I bought it, I was getting like $4 from them, and I'm like, $4? Like, why are they paying me $4 for their stock? Like, it didn't make sense. Like, I thought it was like a penalty fee, like an overcharge fee that I bought the stock at. Like, I didn't understand or comprehend what was going on. And then I got $4, and then I started looking and reinvesting in dividends. But then I sold that stock off at like 20%, and like it was some ridiculous price in like the 60s or 70s. But now it's I could have doubled my money by now. But I bought
yeah,
I do have Chevron, and I do have this other gas company. It's called a ticker symbol EPD, and I absolutely love that stock.
right. I'm not familiar with that one, so I'll have to do some research after as
So
well.
the yield is like 7% ish, 7-8%, but it owns the liquid natural gas, and it comes out of
Okay,
Texas, and it pretty much owns that sector. It's like its own little monopoly in liquid natural gas that, like, people from overseas, like China, Philippines, Europe, they come and get this gas because no one else has it. So it kind of has its own little monopoly. And I don't know why it's not taking off, but I forgot what you need it for, but you rarely need it. But if you need it, these are the only people that supply it. So that's what you want. It's
right.
pretty much called monopoly. But they have that. I know Chevron doesn't do that. ExxonMobil, BP, Shell doesn't do that, and this is the only stock that does do that. So it's good to see that actually, this one
Yeah,
monopoly stock. It's very rare when you need it, but when you need it, you have to go through them.
yeah, interesting, interesting. You mentioned I gotta get into this a little bit. So, you mentioned the $4 dividend, so that's annualized, so they were paying $1 per quarter, correct?
No, that was just 1 quarter I got.
They were paying $4
Well,
per
it wasn't
quarter?
just 1 share. I
Oh, I see, okay.
I bought a couple shares because I didn't when I first bought, like, I didn't know diversification, I didn't know all these terms, so I was like, "Oh," like, I forgot how much I put, but I was like, "Oh, like, $300 or $200 into ExxonMobil," like, sure, they said, like, "Gas is a good buy," and then you forget about it because,
Yeah,
you're not really big into it, like, I wasn't really big into it, so I bought it during COVID, and then, like, all of a sudden, like, I'm going through it, and I'm like, "Oh, like, they're paying me $4, like, dividend? Like, what is this?" And, like, dividend it's just curious to see dividend being another word for interest, basically. Like, hey, like, ExxonMobil's gonna pay you, like, an interest for holding their stock. Like, a dividend is so natural to us, but, like, when I'm explaining dividends to people that don't know what a dividend is, because there is, like, just a small learning curve, but once you get over that curve, you understand everything. Once
yeah,
you understand that Exxon was paying you to hold their stock, like, it's like, just like, hey, like thanks for holding our stock, like, good job, like, here's $4, like, what? That's mind-blowing. That's mind-blowing, and it still is to this day. And I get, like, really, like, nervous, and just like, I don't understand, like, how this company is paying me to hold their stock. Like, it's still mind-blowing to this
yeah.
day, man.
Yeah, so that's I make that comparison too when I'm explaining things to people, and I'll use your example of, like, 200 to $300. I'm like, no savings account is gonna pay you $4 in interest on 2 or $300 in a 3-month
No.
period. Like, so, why wouldn't you invest in these dividend paying
And
companies?
yes, stocks do go up and down, but, like, these big, companies, it might go up and down, but in a 10-year period, it's most likely going to go up. Not saying it
Right.
will, that's why you diversify, but, you know, all these companies are just going to go up and up.
Yeah, and that's another great point. As long as you diversify and over that long haul of the 10 and 15, 20-year period, the stock market has always gone up over that 15 to 20-year period, right? So if you're diversified and you've done your due diligence on the best companies that you feel comfortable with, then I really can't see how you will lose in the long run. Not financial advice.
No, but you're completely right. Like, stuff like Apple, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, companies do fall and rise, and we don't know. Like, there might be this independent phone company called Orange that takes over, and
Yeah,
Apple's out of the system, and all of a sudden, like, everyone wants to go Orange because it's all VR, and they all have AI and all this stuff like that. So, like, Orange is a new company, so, like, you don't want to put all your apples in the Apple.
so you're saying we're going to go from blackberries to apples to
Hey,
oranges?
man, all the fruits. We're going through all the fruits today.
And then we'll have a banana phone.
Hey, we've already had that. The old dial, man. Just ring, ring, ring. Oh, it's just funny to see, like, kids. Like, I was with my kids, and I was like, hey, like, what's the expression for a phone? And he holds this up, and I'm like, oh wow, like, I'm just so used to this because, like, he's used to this little box, and he just puts it to his ear. But, like,
I've never seen anybody do that
we're
before because I'm obviously
we're used to
more
the
familiar with
chords,
the.
and we're like, hey, what's going on? Like, blah 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 blah, because we're used to the mouthpiece and the earpiece, not just like the
Yeah,
phone just holding it up to your face. So it's just funny to see, like, this generation, like, windows, like, how would you roll up a window? And I asked him this too, and he's like, oh, like, you just push a button. I'm like, no, like, you gotta go back and up.
yeah. Why is it called rolling up
Yeah,
the window?
exactly, because we gotta roll up, and that's just shows our age a little bit, but it's just curious to see their minds and how it works because, like, times are different, and from 20 years from now, it is going to be different.
Yeah,
Apple might not be the leader anymore. Like, 20 years ago, we were doing this for our Windows, we are doing this for our phones, but now we're like this, and we have a button for our Windows. Not saying these companies are going to be this, but stuff changes over time, so that's why you want to diversify and not put all your apples into apples and maybe put it into oranges. Oh man, I like that analogy now.
oh man, I don't know if I've ever laughed so much on an episode of the Passive Income Podcast. This has just been an absolutely incredible fun time, spending close to an hour having
Has
an
it? Oh,
just an amazing
geez, it's
conversation
been
with
close
you.
to an hour already. Hey, man,
Yeah, it goes by
it's
fast, eh?
phenomenal, man. Hey, I just you know, on Twitter, some people are fake, some people like to sell stuff. I'm just a real guy. Like I'm down to earth. I'm not trying to sell you anything. Like I'm not the smartest, but like I'm just trying to get the most information I can. And all you guys really do help me. So I really do appreciate that. And it's just phenomenal to see a community gather together with a positive message like, hey, like we're all going to do this together brick by brick, day by day. We're all getting dividends from different companies and we're all trying to make the best portfolio we can. And as long as we're real and we're honest and we're trying to help each other out, like we're all going to be there, we're all going to get there, we're all going to
Right.
be there at the very end. We're going to build our castles, we're going to build our empires, we're going to build Rome, we're going to build everything we can, man. And that's this really strong community. As long as we're open and honest, like with our investments and our dividends, like you don't have to get bank accounts or banking numbers, but like just be real. Like that's what helps people the most. Like don't put up a front, just be real with someone.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and there are a lot of just like yourself, genuine individuals in the whole, Dividend Twitter
Thanks, brother.
community, and, like I said, this has been one of the most, uh, enjoyable episodes of the Passive Income Podcast, and I'm sure the whole audience has really appreciated our banter,
Oh,
and,
I just like to have fun, man. Just like to have fun, just communicate, just throw ideas, just say we're both in this area. Like, let's just make this fun for everyone because it is a very sour and boring topic if you look at just the numbers and the analytics and all stuff like that. But just throw a little bit of humor in there and here, and it's perfect, man.
Cool, cool. So before we sign off, any last thoughts, particularly any thoughts for beginning investors?
Just invest young, invest now. I follow two guys right now. I don't want to throw out their handles because I don't want to, throw them out there. But I like young investors. Like these
Yeah,
kids are 19 and 20, I think. And I just like I don't send them messages because I'm not trying to make creep because it's some guy on the internet messaging you and like I get like me and you were like our parents taught us not to talk to strangers and now like we're talking right now like it's just crazy to think about but like I'm not trying to be weird like but I'm like hey like good job like keep it up like I might be some
yeah,
random dude on the internet but I truly believe you're doing the best thing like you're only making like cents on the dollar right now you're only making like 12 cents on Coke 12 cents on Pepsi 2 cents on Apple and you keep on reinvesting it, like just keep going, man. Like these
yeah,
young kids, they're our future. And like, I like to hit them better than most other people because most other people like are already set in your ways and it's like really hard to grow and adapt to someone. But these young kids, you can grow, you can hit them. And I just,
you can't hit kids.
oh yeah, obviously. But it's just crazy to see just invest young don't go outside the wheel and just invest when you're young. That's the message I would say to younger kids. Don't try to
Yeah,
reinvent the wheel. You can maybe when you're a little bit older and you understand more things, but just hit what everyone else is hitting and just or invest in what everyone else is investing in and just go for it. You don't need to get
yeah.
your whole paycheck, but starting now is better than starting, later on, man.
Yeah, just get started. You are gonna love the next live panel. I actually it's gonna be called the Young Guns, and there's 3 of them that are sort of all in their late teens and early to mid 20s.
That's
So it should
perfect.
be a
That's perfect.
it should be a great
I
episode.
love seeing
That's
that.
coming up on that's coming up next Sunday, May
Let's
7th. So
go! Woo! I love it, baby. I love it. I love when I'm trying to teach my kids. So for his birthday, I got him a bond. I call it a dad bond. Sorry, I'm not sure if you got to go, but I call it a dad bond. So I gave him $20, and he just turned 10. So I was like, hey, when you're 18, this expires, but every month you hold on to this, you get $1. So hey, like let's say this
yeah,
start of the year you got $21, then in February $22, 23. I'm trying to teach him ways that I can, invest rather than just boring him to death with,
yeah,
with
yeah.
investments.
Well, and that's a great lesson too, right? And, on your 10th birthday, grandma's gonna give you 20 bucks or these days probably 50,
With
and
inflation, you know how that is.
back in our day, it was like you were lucky to get 5
I
bucks, but
was. I was like, I could buy a pack of
yeah,
baseball. I could buy a box of baseball cards for $10, and I was like, oh, I love
yeah.
it.
And no, and so that's sort of the lesson is that, at 10 years old, you take that 20 bucks and you go and buy, baseball cards or something, and then, maybe actually those baseball cards appreciate over time, but there's a lot of other things that you spend your money on that it's just gone and it's gone. Whereas, you teach that kid to hold on to that investment and all of a sudden in, 8 or 10 years, it's like, "Oh, you've doubled your money or more,"
So
right?
I put
So,
a cap on 18 because I don't want to go broke if he holds until I'm like 50, and I'm like, oh geez, like here we go, like now I gotta sell like $1,000. But it's just curious to see because like he told me he's gonna hold it until he's 18, and of course, like 2 months later, Dad, a game came out, and I don't really have the money. Do you think I should cash this in? And I'm like, no, like it's
definitely
it's this
not.
cool concept of just like hey, like let's hold it. It's called a dad bond, like it's gonna grow over time. And I'm just trying to teach them about investing because my parents, they're great parents. I'm not saying anything bad, but they didn't teach me about investing.
Yeah.
They said save, 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 and like you gotta invest your money. And
Yeah, my parents were the same way. They didn't understand investing at all, and, they still well, my dad's passed, but my
I'm
mom
sorry
still
to hear
doesn't
about your brother.
understand investing, and it's just the same thing was ingrained into me. You have to save, you have to
Save,
save, you have
save,
to
save.
save, you
Like,
have to
hey, like,
save for a rainy
yeah,
day.
save. It's same exact thing. Same exact thing. They said, save it for a rainy day. You never know when you're gonna need it. And like, I do have an emergency fund, and that's great to have. But if I do need to take money out of a stock, I'll take money out of a stock for my family because I'm a dad, I'm a father, I gotta support my family. So I'm trying to
Yeah,
teach him, like, hey, like, we're gonna have like late, I steps, baby steps. I'm trying to go, but like, hey, like I'm trying to save money, like, let's save money, but like this is investing. So like, yes, you could spend that $22 on that game that you want to buy, but like, hey, like, when you're 18, like it's gonna be like 200 something dollars. Like, wouldn't you rather have that 200 something dollars? And it's just cool to see his brain work. If he wants to do it, he wants to do it, and then I'll keep trying the experiment. But for right now,
yeah,
I think he's at $25 right now. So
that's awesome, that's awesome. So I see we're already over an hour, and like I said, this has been one of the most enjoyable of podcasts that I've done. Just so much laughter, great banter, and I feel like we could just keep talking for hours on end.
yeah, we're just real people trying to get real advice. Like you're doing this great thing that no one else in the community really has, and you're talking to these people, and you right now you're trying to find the best way by talking to all these people, like, hey, like what are you investing in your sector, is there in here? And like some people are really fake and will try to sell you and stuff. I'm not trying to say any names, I'm not trying to say it's ever happened, but but the real honest people that we are trying to do this, and we're all trying to learn, not saying that those people aren't, but I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I'm just here to have a good time, and I'm trying to make my portfolio the best portfolio I possibly can.
Nice, well said. Well said. And yeah, exactly that. I started this with the idea of giving people in the community a voice, which I believe I've
Well,
done.
you've done a
And
phenomenal job.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I truly appreciate that very much. That just means a lot to me. So yeah, giving people in the community a voice, but also like you said, I have learned so much from talking to so many people now. Like I said, we're into the 70s of number of episodes, and it's just been a phenomenally wild ride. And I hope to keep doing several more episodes into the future. And yeah, with that said, we're going to sign off. If you're still here over an hour later and you haven't subscribed yet, hit the
Hit that
subscribe.
subscribe button. You want to subscribe. We're only here to have a good time and grow as a community. And this is how we grow. We learn from each other. So these podcasts do exactly that. So you got to follow this guy, Dividend Dave, DD. You got to follow him right now.
Nice. Thank you again so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. And signing off and subscribe.